Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts and also GME and crypto a little bit. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so first thing I want to show you guys here is that Bitcoin is slowly starting to try to push up to that level that we were talking about before. You can pretty much see it right here. For some reason, the altcoins are popping off more than Bitcoin. I'm not sure why, but we're getting to a point where we're about ready to break bullish, it looks like. We're getting a curling up of the EMAs on the MACD. Potential breakout of the RSI here, and also an eventual break of the 65,000. It looks like we're getting kind of wedged in between this white line here, which you can see goes back pretty far. And this kind of yellow flat top here. Again, this is a very bullish setup, so I'm expecting this thing to actually break out. Okay, so GME. So again, there was some kind of massive dark pool transaction, some 90 million shares bought or some crazy thing like that. Getting a nice little bounce off of these lows here and off of the EMAs. Again, if we're bouncing off the EMAs and we're heading back above them, that's a very bullish signal. If I go down here to the 15-minute time frame, you can see the EMAs already starting to break out and fan out on GME, so that's a very bullish signal. We could actually be literally right at the beginning of the meme stock squeeze. I mean, literally right now. Okay, so let's go back to the grayscale trust real quick. You can see there's quite a bit of green going on here. The markets in general are kind of having a little bit of a struggle today. There's a big fight going on between the bulls and the bears. You guys know my stance. I'm very bullish on the markets. I think markets are going higher in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, that's kind of so as a result, unfortunately, the markets as a whole mostly are just chopping sideways. But I'm not too worried about it. A lot of Fed heads coming out this week. They're probably going to talk up the markets. Markets are likely going to go much higher. So okay, so LTCN, you can see the RSI is starting to curl up here. That's very bullish. Okay, the MACD also doing the same thing. Again, this is pretty indicative of a potential breakout coming here on the weekly time frame. I'm pretty sure we already have one of these on the daily. So just taking a look at the daily here, you can see we've already had a MACD golden cross back here, RSI golden cross back here. We were telling you about this. Saying most likely the bottom is probably in, if not close to it, and that turned out to be right, at least in the immediate short term. We also filled the gap on the weekly time frame. You can see a gap here. We filled that. We did get a close above this. We got a candle close right at the top of this wick, but that's generally speaking pretty bullish. I would only really look for a candle close above the candle body. It doesn't necessarily have to close above the wick for me. So we're still in between the EMAs and this zone right here, which is still resistance in my opinion, until we get a weekly confirmation above it. So we have 5 more days roughly to confirm that. So I would say anywhere probably roughly about 1150 to 15 is going to be the buy zone. Again, if you guys want to go over the major zones, go look at the previous video we did. And then the $54 range is going to be that swing high up there. And again, I mean, this white line kind of trends between 11 to about 13 going out to December, which ideally Bitcoin and these trusts should be at all-time highs by then. So you guys can kind of figure out your calculations and, profit potential and where you want your average to be and all that stuff. So in terms of maximum move here, roughly about 360% move. BCHG, this one is slowly starting to curl up on the MACD. It's not so obvious like with LTCN, but you can see we're about to get that golden cross on the RSI. So this one's lagging a little bit, but I suspect it's probably going to catch up. Getting a retest of the trend line. I mean, you guys can buy down here if you want to. If you think it's going to go lower, then be looking for that 530 to about 580. If you think this is going to hold, then this would be the ideal buying point. So roughly about, I'd say, somewhere between 640 to up to roughly about 740. So about $1 difference for potential buy areas. Again, we are kind of still wedged in between the trend line support and the EMAs here. Again, go over the previous video to look at the zones. We're not going to cover the zones every single video because again, each one of these candles covers an entire week worth of price actions. So 24, I'd say roughly about 24.5 would be the swing high target up there. Again, we go over the Fibonacci's in separate videos in terms of maximum kind of like 6 to 15 months out bull run time frame. So potential profit target here is going to be roughly about 266% move. HZEN, so we are finally out of this wedge. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to moonshot immediately. Although if it did, that would give me more confidence about this move. But again, we got to get above this zone. So right now, I'll just say anywhere between 350 to 425 could potentially be a buy area if you really are too worried about it. Maybe roughly about 250 to $3, and then the target being the top of the wedge. So that's roughly about 10.5. So basically, from the current price, 153% move, and then from the bottom of the support down here is going to be a massive 272% move. Okay, so ETCG does look like it's basing out. We have a curling up of the RSI here. That's very bullish. MACD is probably eventually going to follow suit. So we've had 5 weeks at kind of this 780 level. It hasn't really gone down below that. So I suspect this is probably going to be the bottom, and we're going to push up from here. So 780 is what I'd be looking at for a buy. So you can take a look at the zones in between that. In the previous video, the 1950 swing high is going to be roughly the target up there. So the measured move here is roughly about 154%, 155%. Again, we'll be taking a look at when we go over Bitcoin. Again, we'll take a look at the ETH Bitcoin dominance so you guys can kind of get an idea of as to whether that's starting to break out or not, but that's not really for this video. So ETH, this one's a little bit more obvious, okay? Getting a curl up of the MACDs, that's very bullish. Usually when you see an EMA rounding below the other one and kind of starting to look like it's going to round up like this, that's usually a very early indication that we are about to get a bull move here. And you can see the RSI is already reflecting that. Still below the EMAs here, but again, I would expect that's how a bull move is going to start. I mean, when we go back in time here, you guys can see that the price was moving up previously when it was actually below the EMAs. Okay, so the actual bottom was well below the EMAs, and then we kind of moved up into the EMAs. The bulls and bears fought it out. Bulls won, and then the bulls pushed the price above the EMAs, and we started riding the EMAs up to all-time highs at that point, or not all-time highs, but you know what I mean. The previous swing high that we had. So again, 1880, I suspect this is going to be a bottom. Okay, so we've held this level for a very long time. It's been tested multiple times, has not been broken. I suspect that's probably going to hold. The swing high up here at 36, and then the cup and handle target up here at 47. So from this white line here, you'd be looking at potentially 93% and 153% move. Phil G, this one is slowly starting to move up. Again, the MACD and the EMAs, or the RSI and the MACD EMAs are curling up here. RSI's already had a golden cross. These usually move before the EMAs on the chart. Just so you all know that is pretty commonplace. The price and the EMAs will follow as these two kind of, I mean, they're not really leading indicators per se, but usually when you're looking at this earlier and saying, okay, this thing's starting to curl up, histogram's starting to turn light red, it's moving in the opposite direction, more towards the green, it could be considered somewhat of a leading indicator. So Phil G, even though this thing's moved up, I'm still looking at this area, roughly about 37 to 43 as a buy area. It may not come back and touch that again. We'll just have to wait and see. So $400, all-time high. Potential move here, roughly about 875%. GBAT, nice big green day. I know a certain somebody among the audience is going to be happy about that. Okay, so nice big bounce here off this, what looks to be like a double bottom pattern. Huge bounce, actually, 27%. That's a lot. So same thing. EMA is curling up. You can see it's pretty consistent across the board. So that tells me likely the theory that we've had about bullish seasonality starting going into October, and the bull run beginning October, November, December, going through the end of next year, that what we suspect is going to happen is actually playing out right now. So GBAT support here 450 to about 510, and then the swing high is going to be all the way up here at 32. We still have to get past the EMAs and the resistance, but again, usually when this thing launches, it just completely disrespects all previous resistance on it. It really doesn't even care. So roughly about a 600% gain here. GLIV, same thing, slowly starting to move towards the bull side on the RSI and the MACD. Again, for weeks on end, we've kind of been sitting at this level right around 14, hasn't really moved. It's kind of been holding it. So I'll still say this support between roughly about $12 to, I'd say about probably 12 to 15 somewhere there is going to likely hold as support. So $80 all-time high. Again, this does not even include if we get past these all-time highs. This is just getting back to all-time highs. So that's 436% gain. G-Link. So this one really seems obvious that we're about to get a bull run on this one because you can see the EMAs are already starting to get ready to cross here on the MACD. We have a full-blown cross on the RSI. Price is moving up. We got this nice little double bottom off support. It's already pushing into the EMAs, and we're already kind of tapping that resistance zone. So because we haven't had a full-blown breakout yet, there is one other thing. So we did get above this trend line, so you can see that's already happening. So that's also bullish. But because of the fact that we're not above the EMAs and resistance yet, I would say I'd still be looking at support roughly about 39 to 45. Again, that's if I was just sitting on cash and I just said, you know what, I don't want to put a penny into this thing unless it gets down to my position, down to the zone I want it to be at to get into a position trade. You guys are, of course, free to implement your own strategy on this and how you want to do it. So 220 at all-time highs. From that support to the all-time highs, 430% move. If I were just to measure it from, let's just assume this becomes support from this area to the all-time high would still be 220% gain. Okay, so GSOL, everybody's favorite, Solana. So this thing had a nice little, what looks to be like a V-shaped recovery. I mean, this thing bounced pretty hard off that EMA and that support. I can't really say I'm surprised, but I did kind of think it was going to come down here. Obviously, I was wrong about that. That's fine. Not a big deal. Not too concerned about it. So 300 to roughly about 350 going to be that support there, and then the all-time high is at 580. I do suspect a lot of these trusts are actually going to break their previous all-time highs. I suspect that's probably going to be very, very likely this cycle. So roughly about a 92% move on this one. GXLM, nice big pop off this white line down here. Again, these white lines are meant to kind of serve as potential support and resistance. This chart is kind of funky, so it's a little hard to read. But the MACD is curling up, RSI is curling up, price is bouncing, everything looks bullish. Same story as the other ones. We're stuck in between support and the EMAs on the charts. So, it's just a matter of time before these break out to the upside and get past the EMAs. I'd say maybe another 30 days or something. Probably 2 weeks to maybe 30 days, somewhere in there. And then we'll see these things really start smashing to the upside. Okay, so because we got back above this white line, I'm just going to say that this kind of $20 area, you can see this wick back here and these candles back here. That's probably going to be a good buy area. Again, I can list these off for you guys. So we have 1440, 20, and then 2430. As we move up, maybe that might be a good idea to keep those levels in mind. And then the swing high up here is going to be roughly about 70. So from 20 to 70, about a 3.5x, 250% gain. Mana, not to be confused with Decentraland. This is the Grayscale Trust. I know they have the same ticker, but that's unfortunately there's just some overlaps. So Decentraland here, or I should say the Mana Trust, EMAs on the MACD curling up, histogram moving towards that green shade, RSI golden cross. Nice little bounce off of kind of these wick lows here. This one's a little bit hard to read, but I'd say it's overall bullish. So white line's going to be support here, roughly about 10.25. And the all-time high is 70. Again, it's definitely possible these things could, especially the specific altcoin related ones, could go way past all-time highs. Okay. Even Ethereum could go way past all-time highs. There's a reason why I say that. So 610% move here. Zcash, once again, just kind of sitting in accumulation, not doing much of anything, but you can see the MACD is not quite curling up yet, but it looks like it might be about ready to do that. And the RSI is trying to push that golden cross above the bull zone there. So it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, before it does. So I'd still be looking at 315, 320 kind of as the buy zone there. Realistically, probably anywhere between 315 and 518 or 510, I guess you'd say. Could be a good buying area. It's just kind of a wide range if you're looking for more of a big area to buy, not so much like a specific precision trade. So 10 and a quarter is going to be the swing high up there. So if we measure this move from the white line to the swing high, you're looking at roughly about 225% move. And again, the reason why I think a lot of these altcoin specific trusts could break out much more and have really lead big time to new all-time highs is because, again, the ETH Bitcoin dominance just simply hasn't had a breakout yet. This entire time, Bitcoin's been in control. Okay. Again, when this thing goes up, that's when the Bitcoin dominance or Bitcoin's running the market. Okay. When this thing goes down, when this thing goes up, that's when ETH and altcoins explode. When this thing goes down, that's when Bitcoin is dominating the market. You could think of this ETH Bitcoin pair as kind of like the inverse or the opposite of the BTC dominance. So when this thing goes down, Bitcoin dominance goes up and vice versa. So yeah, we're basically just looking for something like this, like a break of the trend line on the ETH Bitcoin pair and then the golden cross, and then it should be game over after that. We should see a massive alt season again. We got this golden cross on the dominance back here in July of 2020. That was actually earlier last cycle than where we currently are now. But again, in my opinion, everything is playing out as it should. I don't think anything's really out of order here. I think Bitcoin and altcoins will be moonshotting very soon. And just my opinion, but we're all going to make a boatload of money. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.